Remember when Kenny McCormick took off his hood and revealed his face for the first time? Not the glimpses we caught in earlier episodes, but that full, deliberate reveal that changed everything we thought we knew about South Park's most enigmatic fourth grader. For over 2 decades, Kenny has been the heart of one of television's most enduring animated series. Yet he remains the most mysterious member of the core group. Tonight, we're going to explore every facet of this remarkable character, from his tragic family circumstances to his heroic alter ego, from his countless deaths to his moments of profound wisdom. Welcome to over an hour of Kenny McCormick facts, designed to accompany your study sessions or help you drift off to sleep. This isn't just a collection of trivia. It's a comprehensive journey through the evolution of a character who started as a simple running gag and became something far more meaningful. Whether you're a longtime South Park fan or someone discovering Kenny's depth for the first time, this exploration will reveal layers of complexity you might never have noticed. Kenny McCormick represents something unique in the landscape of animated television. While his friends Stan Marsh, Kyle Broflovsky, and Eric Cartman often drive the show's main plots with their clear personalities and loud voices, Kenny operates in a different space entirely. His muffled speech, hidden face, and frequent deaths initially positioned him as background comedy. But over time, these very limitations became the foundation for some of the series' most poignant storytelling. What makes Kenny fascinating is how creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone use constraints to create depth. The orange parka that obscures his face and muffles his voice could have been a barrier to character development, but instead, it became a canvas for showing rather than telling. Every gesture, every moment when Kenny chooses to speak up despite knowing he won't be understood, every instance where he removes his hood becomes significant precisely because these moments are rare and deliberate. The character's evolution mirrors the show's own growth. Early South Park episodes use Kenny's deaths as shock comedy, sudden, unexpected, and immediately forgotten by the next episode. But as the series matured, so did its approach to Kenny's mortality. What began as a simple gag evolved into a complex mythology involving cosmic horror, family curses, and genuine psychological trauma. Kenny doesn't just die and come back. He remembers every death, carries the weight of each experience, and yet continues to sacrifice himself for others. This transformation from comic relief to tragic hero represents one of television animation's most successful character rehabilitations. Kenny's poverty, family dysfunction, and social isolation could have remained simple punchlines, but the show's writers chose to explore these elements with surprising sensitivity. His relationship with his sister Karen, his role as the family's emotional caretaker despite being only 10 years old, and his mature understanding of adult problems all emerge gradually, painting a picture of a child forced to grow up too quickly. Perhaps most remarkably, Kenny's limitations as a character, his muffled speech, hidden face, and frequent absences, became his greatest strengths. When Kenny speaks clearly, audiences lean in. When he removes his hood, it's an event. When he stays dead for an entire season, his absence is felt in every episode. The creators learned that sometimes the most powerful characters are those who don't dominate every scene, but whose presence or absence colors everything around them. The genius of Kenny's character lies in this restraint. In a show filled with loud, attention-seeking personalities, Kenny's quiet heroism stands out. As Mysterian, he uses his curse of immortality not for personal gain, but to protect others who can't protect themselves. As Princess Kenny, he explores identity and expression without the toxic masculinity that often defines childhood friendships. As simply Kenny McCormick, he navigates poverty, family dysfunction, and social challenges with a resilience that's both heartbreaking and inspiring. Tonight's journey will take us through every aspect of Kenny's character development, from his earliest appearances as a one-dimensional death gag to his current status as South Park's unlikely moral center. We'll explore his family dynamics, his friendships, his romantic interests, and his various alter egos. We'll examine how his character reflects broader themes about poverty, mortality, heroism, and identity. We'll look at the voice acting choices that bring him to life and the cultural impact he's had far beyond the show itself. Each section of this exploration is designed to be both informative and relaxing, perfect for background listening while you study, work, or wind down for the evening. The facts and analysis flow together naturally, creating a comprehensive portrait of one of animation's most underrated characters. Whether you're here to learn something new about a favorite character, or simply want some engaging content to accompany your evening routine, this deep dive into Kenny McCormick promises to reveal the extraordinary depth hidden beneath that familiar orange parka. So settle in, get comfortable, and prepare to discover why Kenny McCormick deserves recognition as one of television's most compelling characters. From his mysterious origins to his heroic present, from his tragic home life to his cosmic significance, Kenny's story is one worth telling, and one worth falling asleep to. Kenny McCormick has died over 100 times throughout South Park's run, but what many fans don't realize is that his deaths follow specific patterns that reveal deeper truths about his character and the show's evolution as a whole. What began as a simple shock gag in the series' early episodes gradually transformed into one of television's most complex explorations of mortality, sacrifice, and the weight of immortality. In the beginning, Kenny's deaths were purely comedic, sudden, violent, and immediately forgotten. He'd be crushed by a falling piano, struck by lightning, or meet some other absurd end, prompting Stan and Kyle's iconic response, "Oh my God, they killed Kenny," followed by Kyle's, "You bastards." These early deaths served a specific purpose in South Park's anarchic comedy style, representing the show's willingness to push boundaries and shock audiences with unexpected violence against children. But as the series progressed, something remarkable happened. The creators began to examine the implications of Kenny's constant deaths and resurrections. What if someone actually remembered these traumatic events? What if dying repeatedly wasn't just a reset button, but an accumulating psychological burden? This shift in perspective transformed Kenny from a disposable gag character into a tragic figure carrying unimaginable trauma. The mythology behind Kenny's immortality was fully revealed in the Mysterian Rises trilogy, where we learned that his parents, Stuart and Carol McCormick, were members of the cult of Cthulhu. Their participation in dark rituals cursed their son with the ability to be reborn after each death, but with the terrible burden of remembering every single dying moment. This revelation recontextualized every previous death, transforming what seemed like cartoon violence into genuine cosmic horror. Kenny's deaths can be categorized into several distinct types, each revealing different aspects of his character. The accidental deaths, being hit by cars, falling from heights, or caught in explosions, often occurred while Kenny was simply trying to participate in normal childhood activities. These deaths highlight the cruel randomness of his curse and how it isolates him from ordinary experiences his friends take for granted. More significantly, many of Kenny's deaths are sacrificial in nature. Time and again, he throws himself into danger to protect his friends or innocent people, knowing full well that death is likely the result. Whether it's saving a school bus full of children or protecting his friends from supernatural threats, Kenny consistently chooses others' safety over his own survival. This pattern reveals his fundamentally heroic nature long before the Mysterian storyline made it explicit. The psychological impact of remembering every death cannot be overstated. Kenny carries the memory of being burned alive, crushed, dismembered, and worse, experiences that would traumatize any adult, let alone a 10-year-old child. Yet he continues to function, attend school, maintain friendships, and even find moments of joy and humor. This resilience speaks to an incredible strength of character that's often overlooked due to his muffled speech and background role. What makes Kenny's situation even more tragic is his isolation in these experiences. His friends don't remember his deaths. His parents are too consumed by their own problems to provide support, and the cosmic forces that cursed him remain indifferent to his suffering. Kenny bears this burden alone, which explains both his maturity beyond his years and his deep empathy for others who suffer. The evolution of how Kenny's deaths are portrayed reflects South Park's own maturation as a series. Early deaths were often random and meaningless, but later deaths became more purposeful, tied to character development and emotional stakes. When Kenny stays dead for an entire season, his absence is felt throughout the show, demonstrating how integral he had become to the group dynamic despite, or perhaps because of, his quiet presence. The phrase, "Oh my God, they killed Kenny," became a cultural phenomenon, referenced far beyond South Park itself. But within the show's universe, this catchphrase takes on darker implications. It represents how society often treats the deaths of the poor and marginalized as shocking momentarily, but quickly forgotten and replaced by the next tragedy. Kenny's friend's mechanical response to his deaths mirrors how real-world poverty and suffering can become normalized and dismissed. Kenny's immortality also serves as a metaphor for cycles of poverty and abuse. No matter how many times he dies, he's reborn into the same circumstances, the same dysfunctional family, the same economic struggles, the same social isolation. His deaths become a literalization of how systemic problems trap individuals in repeated cycles of trauma and hardship. Yet Kenny's response to his curse reveals his true character. Rather than becoming bitter or withdrawn, he channels his unique perspective into heroism. As Mysterian, he uses his immortality not for personal gain, but to protect others who don't share his ability to return from death. He understands the value of life precisely because he's experienced death so many times. The careful tracking of Kenny's deaths reveals fascinating patterns about the show's themes and priorities. Deaths related to his poverty increase during episodes dealing with class issues. Sacrificial deaths cluster around moments when the show explores heroism and moral choices. Random deaths occur most frequently during periods when South Park emphasizes its anarchic, anything can happen comedy style. Understanding Kenny's death cycle is crucial to appreciating his character development and the show's broader themes about mortality, sacrifice, and the hidden costs of heroism. For years, Kenny's muffled voice was one of South Park's greatest mysteries, but when we finally heard him speak clearly, it revealed a character far more intelligent and articulate than anyone expected. The orange parka that defined Kenny's visual identity also created one of animation's most unique vocal challenges, requiring both the voice actor and the audience to develop an entirely new language of communication based on gesture, tone, and context rather than clear speech. Matt Stone's approach to voicing Kenny required extraordinary creativity and consistency. Every muffled line had to convey specific meaning while remaining authentically garbled by the parka's hood. Stone developed a technique of speaking clearly into his hand or a piece of cloth, creating the distinctive muffled quality that became Kenny's signature sound. But more importantly, he learned to convey emotion, humor, and personality through inflection and rhythm even when individual words remained unintelligible. The genius of Kenny's muffled speech lies in how it forces viewers to pay closer attention to his character. When you can't rely on dialogue to understand a character's thoughts or feelings, you become more attuned to their body language, their actions, and the rare moments when their words break through clearly. This constraint actually made Kenny more expressive, not less, as every gesture and movement carried additional weight and meaning. Throughout the series' early seasons, dedicated fans developed an almost supernatural ability to decode Kenny's muffled statements. Online communities shared transcriptions and interpretations, creating a collective effort to understand what Kenny was really saying. This fan engagement turned Kenny's speech impediment into a participatory element that brought viewers deeper into the show's world. When Kenny made a muffled joke, understanding it felt like being part of an exclusive club. The moments when Kenny speaks clearly carry enormous impact precisely because they're so rare. When he removes his hood or finds himself in situations where his voice isn't muffled, the clarity feels revelatory. His voice, when fully audible, reveals a surprisingly mature vocabulary and thoughtful perspective on the world around him. These clear speech moments often coincide with the series' most emotional or significant character developments, making Kenny's articulation a narrative reward for patient viewers. Kenny's face reveals follow a similar pattern of scarcity, creating significance. Early glimpses of his hair or partial profile became major talking points among fans, analyzed and discussed like archaeological discoveries. When his full face was finally revealed in the Coon trilogy, it carried the weight of years of anticipation. The reveal showed not just Kenny's physical appearance, but symbolized his emergence from the background into full character development. The design of Kenny's face, when finally revealed, perfectly matched his character's established personality. His blonde hair, gentle features, and expressive eyes conveyed both the innocence of childhood and the weight of his experiences. Unlike some animated characters whose faces might disappoint when finally shown, Kenny's appearance enhanced rather than diminished his mystique. He looked exactly like someone who could be both the innocent victim of countless deaths and the wise beyond his years hero who remembers each one. The symbolic significance of Kenny's hood extends far beyond simple character design. The parka represents both protection and isolation. It shields him from the cold poverty of his circumstances while simultaneously cutting him off from clear communication with others. When Kenny chooses to lower his hood or remove it entirely, he's making himself vulnerable, both literally and metaphorically. These moments of unveiling often coincide with acts of heroism or emotional honesty. Kenny's muffled speech also serves as a metaphor for how society often ignores the voices of the poor and marginalized. His friends frequently talk over him, ignore his contributions, or simply pretend to understand what he's saying rather than making the effort to truly listen. This dynamic reflects real-world patterns where economic disadvantage can render people effectively voiceless in social situations, their perspectives dismissed or overlooked by those with more privilege. The evolution of Kenny's voice and visibility throughout the series mirrors his character development from background gag to central figure. As Kenny became more important to storylines, his speech became slightly clearer, his face appeared more frequently, and his contributions to group dynamics became more recognized by both his friends and the audience. This gradual emergence from obscurity reflects the show's growing sophistication in handling his character. The technical challenges of animating Kenny presented unique opportunities for creative expression. Animators had to convey personality and emotion through posture, gesture, and movement rather than facial expressions. This constraint led to some of the series' most memorable physical comedy and touching character moments. Kenny's body language became extraordinarily expressive, with subtle movements of his shoulders, head tilts, and hand gestures carrying complex emotional information. When Kenny appears as Mysterian or Princess Kenny, the voice and visibility changes serve important narrative functions. Mysterian's clear, mature voice reflects Kenny's confidence in his heroic identity, while Princess Kenny's higher, more playful tone shows his comfort with different forms of self-expression. These alternate personas allow Kenny to explore different aspects of his personality while maintaining the core character's essential traits. The cultural impact of Kenny's muffled speech extended far beyond South Park itself. The character became a template for how animation could use limitations as creative opportunities, inspiring other shows to experiment with unconventional character designs and communication methods. Kenny proved that characters didn't need clear dialogue to be memorable, beloved, or narratively significant. Understanding Kenny's voice and face reveals is crucial to appreciating how the creators transformed apparent disadvantages into storytelling strengths. The McCormick household represents one of South Park's most realistic portrayals of poverty, addiction, and family dysfunction, making Kenny's resilience all the more remarkable. While his friends Stan, Kyle, and Cartman deal with typical childhood problems within the safety of stable, middle-class homes, Kenny navigates a daily reality marked by financial insecurity, parental addiction, and the constant threat of violence or neglect. This stark contrast in circumstances shapes every aspect of his character and provides crucial context for understanding his maturity, empathy, and heroic nature. Stuart and Carol McCormick's struggles with addiction form the tragic foundation of the family's dysfunction. Both parents battle alcoholism and drug dependency, often prioritizing their substances over their children's basic needs. Episodes frequently show them fighting violently, passing out drunk, or engaging in dangerous behaviors that put the entire family at risk. Their addiction isn't portrayed as comedic character quirks, but as genuine disease that creates chaos and trauma for their children. The financial situation of the McCormick family provides a sobering look at how poverty affects every aspect of daily life. Their house is visibly run down, with broken windows, damaged walls, and minimal furnishings. The family often lacks basic necessities like adequate food, heat, or clean clothing. Kenny's distinctive orange parka isn't just a fashion choice. It's likely one of the few warm garments he owns, worn constantly out of necessity rather than preference. This economic reality explains many of Kenny's behaviors and perspectives that set him apart from his more privileged friends. Kenny's role as a caretaker within this dysfunctional family structure reveals his extraordinary emotional maturity. Despite being only 10 years old, he often functions as the adult in the household, mediating between his fighting parents, ensuring his sister Karen's safety, and managing practical concerns that should be handled by responsible adults. This premature responsibility explains his sophisticated understanding of complex emotional and social situations that often surpasses his friends' comprehension. The contrast between Kenny's home life and his friends' privilege creates subtle but significant tensions throughout the series. While Stan, Kyle, and Cartman worry about video games, school projects, or social status, Kenny faces concerns about basic survival and family safety. His friends' casual spending on entertainment, snacks, or toys represents luxuries completely beyond Kenny's reach. Yet despite this economic gulf, Kenny rarely expresses resentment or self-pity, instead maintaining his friendships with remarkable grace and generosity. Kenny's maturity compared to his parents is one of the most heartbreaking aspects of his character. Stuart and Carol McCormick often behave more childishly than their 10-year-old son, throwing tantrums, making impulsive decisions, and failing to consider the consequences of their actions on their children. Kenny, by contrast, demonstrates remarkable emotional regulation, long-term thinking, and consideration for others' well-being. He understands concepts like sacrifice, responsibility, and consequences that his parents seem incapable of grasping. The cycle of poverty that traps the McCormick family reflects real-world systemic issues with surprising accuracy for an animated comedy. Their poverty isn't simply about lacking money. It's about lacking opportunities, education, social connections, and the basic stability needed to break destructive patterns. Stuart's inability to maintain steady employment, Carol's struggles with mental health and addiction, and the family's social isolation all contribute to a situation where escape seems impossible. Yet Kenny represents hope within this cycle of despair. Despite the dysfunction surrounding him, he maintains his moral compass, his empathy for others, and his determination to protect those he loves. His academic performance, while not explicitly detailed in the show, appears adequate despite the chaos of his home environment. His friendships with Stan, Kyle, and even Cartman provide him with models of different family dynamics and broader perspectives on life's possibilities. The realistic portrayal of poverty in Kenny's storylines serves important social commentary functions within South Park's broader satirical framework. The show uses Kenny's circumstances to highlight how economic inequality affects children, how addiction destroys families, and how society often ignores or dismisses the struggles of the poor. Kenny's frequent deaths can be read as metaphors for how poverty literally kills. Through malnutrition, unsafe living conditions, lack of health care, and exposure to violence. Kenny's response to his family's dysfunction demonstrates remarkable resilience and emotional intelligence. Rather than becoming bitter, angry, or withdrawn, he channels his experiences into increased empathy and protectiveness toward others. His understanding of suffering makes him more sensitive to others' pain, while his experience with instability makes him value loyalty and genuine connection more deeply than his friends who take these things for granted. The McCormick family's membership in the cult of Cthulhu adds supernatural elements to their dysfunction while maintaining the underlying themes of parental irresponsibility and child endangerment. Stuart and Carol's willingness to participate in dark rituals that curse their son reveals the ultimate expression of their selfishness and poor judgment. Even their religious practices become another form of child abuse, prioritizing their own spiritual or social needs over their children's well-being. Kenny's ability to maintain hope and heroism despite his circumstances makes him one of television's most admirable characters. He proves that virtue isn't dependent on privilege, that heroism can emerge from suffering, and that children can demonstrate greater wisdom and morality than the adults responsible for their care. His story validates the experiences of real children facing similar struggles while providing a model of resilience and strength. The McCormick family tragedy serves as the foundation for understanding Kenny's character, explaining his maturity, his heroism, and his deep capacity for love and sacrifice. His daily navigation of poverty and dysfunction provides context for every other aspect of his personality and makes his moments of joy, friendship, and heroism all the more meaningful and inspiring. Kenny's relationship with his little sister, Karen, reveals the most tender and protective side of his character, showing that beneath the crude jokes and constant deaths lies a deeply caring big brother who would do anything to shield her from their family's dysfunction. In a household where the adults consistently fail to provide safety, stability, or nurture, Kenny steps into the role of Karen's primary protector, demonstrating a level of devotion and responsibility that's both touching and heartbreaking for a 10-year-old child. The dynamic between Kenny and Karen represents one of South Park's most genuinely emotional relationships, free from the cynicism and satire that characterizes much of the show's humor. When Kenny interacts with his sister, his muffled speech often becomes clearer, his posture more gentle, and his entire demeanor shifts from the rough-and-tumble attitude he displays with his friends to something far more nurturing and protective. These moments reveal Kenny's capacity for pure, unconditional love in its most innocent form. Karen McCormick, several years younger than Kenny, exists in a state of relative innocence compared to her brother's worldly experience with death, violence, and family chaos. Kenny works tirelessly to maintain this innocence, shielding her from the worst aspects of their parents' dysfunction and creating moments of childhood magic despite their impoverished circumstances. He plays games with her, tells her stories, and provides the emotional support that Stuart and Carol are too consumed by their own problems to offer. The financial constraints that define the McCormick household make Kenny's protection of Karen even more challenging and meaningful. When a family lacks basic necessities, Kenny often ensures that Karen's needs are met before his own. He shares his meager school lunch with her, gives up opportunities for himself to benefit her, and uses his creativity to provide entertainment and comfort that costs nothing but means everything. These small sacrifices accumulate into a portrait of selfless love that defines Kenny's character at its core. Kenny's role as Karen's protector extends beyond mere physical safety to encompass her emotional and psychological well-being. He understands that growing up in poverty with addicted parents creates trauma and insecurity, so he works actively to counteract these negative influences through consistent love, attention, and reliability. When their parents fight or disappear on drug binges, Kenny becomes Karen's anchor, providing the stability that children need to feel secure in a chaotic world. The Princess Kenny persona takes on deeper significance when viewed through the lens of Kenny's relationship with Karen. His willingness to embrace feminine expression and play princess games reflects his understanding that children need fantasy, imagination, and the freedom to explore different identities. Kenny's comfort with playing princess suggests his desire to give Karen the kind of magical, carefree childhood experiences that their circumstances typically prevent. Episodes featuring Kenny and Karen together showcase South Park's ability to balance crude humor with genuine emotion. When Kenny appears with his sister, the show's tone shifts noticeably, becoming more tender and sincere. These moments provide emotional anchors that ground the series' more outrageous elements in recognizable human relationships. The love between the siblings feels authentic and unmanipulated, offering viewers a respite from the show's typical cynicism. Kenny's sacrifices for Karen's well-being often go unnoticed by other characters, but are clearly visible to observant viewers. He might skip meals to ensure she eats, give up his own comfort for her warmth, or endure additional hardship to spare her from witnessing their parents' worst behaviors. These sacrifices are made quietly, without fanfare or recognition, reflecting Kenny's understanding that true protection often involves suffering in silence to preserve someone else's peace. The parallel between Kenny protecting Karen and Mysterian protecting South Park reveals the consistent nature of his heroic character. Whether he's shielding his sister from family dysfunction or saving the city from supernatural threats, Kenny's motivation remains the same: protecting the innocent from harm they don't deserve and can't prevent themselves. Karen represents Kenny's first experience with heroism, teaching him that true strength means using your power to defend those who cannot defend themselves. Kenny's relationship with Karen also highlights the tragedy of his immortality curse. Each time he dies, he leaves her temporarily unprotected in a dangerous household. His resurrection ensures his return, but the time gap between death and rebirth could expose Karen to harm during his absence. This adds another layer of urgency to Kenny's careful navigation of dangerous situations. He's not just risking his own suffering through death, but potentially abandoning his sister when she needs him most. The bond between Kenny and Karen transcends their difficult circumstances, creating moments of pure joy and connection that illuminate what their relationship could be in a healthier environment. When they play together, laugh together, or simply exist in peaceful companionship, viewers glimpse the loving family dynamic that could exist if addiction and poverty weren't constantly threatening their stability. These moments make their actual circumstances more poignant by contrast. Kenny's protection of Karen serves as a microcosm of his broader character development. His willingness to sacrifice for her well-being, his gentle treatment of her innocence, and his determination to provide stability in chaos all reflect the same qualities that later manifest in his roles as Mysterian and as a loyal friend. Karen represents Kenny's first experience with unconditional love and responsibility, shaping his understanding of what it means to care for others. The relationship between Kenny and Karen ultimately demonstrates that heroism often begins at home, in small acts of love and protection that no one else sees, but that mean everything to those who receive them. When Kenny became Mysterian, he transformed from South Park's running gag into its most complex character, using his curse of immortality to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The emergence of Mysterian during the Coon and Friends trilogy marked a turning point not just for Kenny's character development, but for the entire series' approach to superhero storytelling and the exploration of genuine heroism within South Park's cynical universe. The creation of Mysterian allowed Kenny to finally take agency over his immortality curse. Instead of being a passive victim of random deaths, he became an active participant in dangerous situations, using his ability to return from death as a tactical advantage in protecting others. This transformation from victim to hero represents one of the most successful character rehabilitations in animated television history, proving that even the most seemingly disposable characters can evolve into compelling protagonists. Mysterian's detective skills and deductive reasoning reveal aspects of Kenny's intelligence that his muffled speech and background role had previously obscured. As the hooded vigilante, Kenny demonstrates remarkable analytical abilities, piecing together complex mysteries and understanding criminal motivations with sophistication that rivals adult detectives. His investigation techniques show patience, logic, and insight that contrast sharply with his friend's more impulsive approaches to problem solving. The psychological weight of being the only one who remembers his deaths becomes central to Mysterian's character motivation. While his friends and family forget each traumatic death, Kenny carries the accumulated trauma of every violent end he's experienced. This isolation and suffering drives his determination to prevent others from experiencing similar trauma, making Mysterian's heroism deeply personal rather than abstractly noble. He protects others from the kind of senseless violence he's endured countless times. Mysterian's costume design cleverly incorporates elements of Kenny's everyday appearance while creating a distinct heroic identity. The hood that normally muffles Kenny's voice becomes a symbol of mystery and protection, while the cape and emblem transform his poverty-imposed clothing limitations into choices that enhance his mystique. The design proves that heroism doesn't require expensive equipment or high-tech gadgets. Sometimes it just requires courage and determination. The Coon and Friends trilogy's significance extends beyond Kenny's character development to explore broader themes about heroism, responsibility, and the nature of true versus false heroics. While Cartman's Coon persona seeks glory and recognition, Mysterian operates from genuine altruism, willing to suffer and die repeatedly without any expectation of reward or acknowledgement. This contrast highlights the difference between performative heroism and authentic sacrifice. Kenny's approach to superhero work reflects his working-class background and practical understanding of real problems. Unlike his friends who might focus on flashy villains or dramatic confrontations, Mysterian addresses street-level crime, domestic violence, and threats to vulnerable community members. His heroism is grounded in everyday reality rather than fantastic adventures, making his impact more relatable and meaningful to viewers. The revelation of Mysterian's identity creates dramatic irony that enhances Kenny's character across all his appearances. Viewers who know Kenny is Mysterian can recognize heroic qualities in his everyday behavior that his friends miss entirely. His willingness to put himself in danger, his protection of weaker students, and his mature response to crises all take on new significance when understood as expressions of his heroic nature. Mysterian's investigation into his own immortality demonstrates Kenny's determination to understand and potentially control his curse. Rather than accepting his situation passively, he actively researches his condition, eventually uncovering his parents' connection to the cult of Cthulhu and the cosmic forces responsible for his resurrections. This investigation shows Kenny taking control of his narrative, refusing to remain a victim of circumstances beyond his understanding. The character's rogues gallery, while limited, reflects the real-world concerns that motivate Kenny's heroism. Rather than fighting supervillains with elaborate schemes, Mysterian confronts drug dealers threatening children, domestic abusers harming families, and other criminals whose actions directly impact vulnerable community members. This grounded approach to superhero storytelling makes Mysterian's victories feel more meaningful and relevant. Kenny's use of his immortality as Mysterian raises fascinating ethical questions about heroism and sacrifice. His willingness to die repeatedly to protect others represents the ultimate form of self-sacrifice. Yet it also raises concerns about the psychological cost of such extreme heroism. The character explores whether true heroism requires suffering and whether someone who can't permanently die can truly understand the stakes involved in life and death situations. The evolution of Kenny's character through Mysterian demonstrates how limitations can become strengths when approached creatively. His muffled speech becomes mysterious silence, his hidden face becomes intimidating anonymity, and his frequent deaths become tactical advantages. This transformation proves that effective character development often involves recontextualizing existing traits rather than abandoning them entirely. Mysterian's impact on South Park's superhero landscape extends beyond his individual adventures to influence how the show approaches heroism generally. His authentic motivation and genuine sacrifice serve as a standard against which other characters' heroic pretensions are measured. When other characters play superhero, Mysterian's example highlights the difference between real heroism and childhood fantasy. The character represents Kenny's full emergence from background obscurity into narrative centrality. As Mysterian, Kenny drives major storylines, makes crucial decisions, and carries emotional weight that his earlier appearances rarely allowed. This elevation proves that every character, no matter how apparently minor, contains potential for depth and development when approached with creativity and respect. Understanding Mysterion is essential to appreciating Kenny's complete character arc and recognizing how South Park successfully transformed a simple gag into one of television's most compelling explorations of heroism, sacrifice, and the responsibility that comes with power. Princess Kenny might have started as a joke, but this alter ego reveals fascinating aspects of Kenny's character and South Park's approach to gender expression that deserve serious examination. Far from being a simple throwaway gag, Princess Kenny represents one of the most progressive and thoughtful explorations of gender fluidity in mainstream animated television, demonstrating Kenny's comfort with different forms of self-expression and his willingness to embrace aspects of identity that his peers might find threatening or confusing. The origins of Princess Kenny in role-playing games provide important context for understanding the character's significance. When the boys play fantasy games like Stick of Truth or engage in elaborate make-believe scenarios, Kenny consistently chooses to play female characters, and his friends accept this choice without question or mockery. This acceptance suggests that Kenny's gender expression feels natural and unforced to everyone involved, indicating a comfort level with gender fluidity that's remarkable for 10-year-old boys in a conservative small town. Princess Kenny's evolution beyond simple comedy becomes apparent when examining how the character is portrayed across different contexts. Unlike other South Park characters who might be mocked for unconventional gender expression, Princess Kenny is treated with surprising respect and admiration, both by other characters and by the show's creators. Her appearances in video games, promotional materials, and fan art consistently present her as beautiful, powerful, and worthy of genuine affection rather than ridicule. The character's unexpected popularity in Japanese culture highlights how Princess Kenny transcended her origins to become a legitimate cultural phenomenon. Japanese fans embraced Princess Kenny with enthusiasm that surprised even South Park's creators, producing fan art, merchandise, and tributes that celebrated the character's aesthetic appeal and personality. This international recognition demonstrates how effective character design and authentic expression can resonate across cultural boundaries. Kenny's comfort with feminine expression reveals important aspects of his personality that might otherwise remain hidden. As Princess Kenny, he displays grace, elegance, and a different kind of confidence than he shows in his everyday interactions. This comfort with femininity suggests a secure sense of self that allows him to explore different aspects of identity without fear or shame. His willingness to embrace traditionally feminine traits like beauty, gentleness, and emotional expressiveness shows a maturity and self-acceptance that's remarkable for his age. The contrast between Princess Kenny and Mysterion illustrates the full range of Kenny's character potential. While Mysterion represents his heroic, protective masculine side, Princess Kenny embodies his gentler, more nurturing aspects. Both personas allow Kenny to express parts of himself that his everyday circumstances often suppress. Mysterion gives him agency and power, while Princess Kenny gives him beauty and grace. Together, they represent a complete spectrum of human expression rarely seen in animated characters. Princess Kenny's role in the boys' fantasy games often positions her as a powerful, respected figure rather than a helpless victim requiring rescue. She's frequently portrayed as a skilled warrior, magical practitioner, or political leader whose femininity enhances rather than undermines her authority. This portrayal challenges traditional gender stereotypes by showing that feminine expression and personal power aren't mutually exclusive. The character design of Princess Kenny demonstrates remarkable attention to detail and respect for the aesthetic principles of feminine beauty. Her elaborate dresses, flowing hair, and graceful posture create a genuinely appealing character design that works on multiple levels. As parody, as sincere character exploration, and as legitimate artistic creation. The care taken in her design suggests that the creators take Princess Kenny seriously as a character worth developing thoughtfully. Kenny's seamless transition between his various personas. Everyday Kenny, Mysterian, and Princess Kenny reveals a flexibility and comfort with identity that's psychologically healthy and emotionally mature. Rather than seeing these different expressions as conflicting or contradictory, Kenny appears to view them as different facets of his complete self. This integrated approach to identity suggests a level of self-awareness and acceptance that many adults struggle to achieve. The acceptance Princess Kenny receives from Kenny's friends, particularly in fantasy contexts, reflects positively on the boys' friendship dynamics. Stan, Kyle, and even Cartman treat Princess Kenny as a legitimate character worthy of respect within their games and stories. This acceptance creates a safe space for gender exploration that allows Kenny to express himself authentically without fear of judgment or rejection from his peer group. Princess Kenny's appearances often coincide with moments of creativity, imagination, and collaborative play that showcase the boys' capacity for sophisticated storytelling and world building. The character serves as a catalyst for elaborate narratives that demonstrate the children's intelligence and creativity while providing Kenny with opportunities to explore different aspects of personality and presentation. The cultural impact of Princess Kenny extends beyond South Park to influence broader conversations about gender expression in children's media. The character provides a positive example of how animated shows can address gender fluidity with humor and respect rather than mockery or dismissal. Princess Kenny's popularity suggests that audiences are ready for more nuanced and accepting portrayals of gender expression in mainstream entertainment. Understanding Princess Kenny requires recognizing that gender expression exists on a spectrum and that healthy identity development often involves exploring different aspects of self-presentation. Kenny's comfort with feminine expression doesn't define his sexual orientation or gender identity. It simply demonstrates his confidence in exploring the full range of human experience without being constrained by rigid social expectations. Princess Kenny ultimately represents Kenny's freedom to be completely himself in all his complexity, showing that true strength comes from embracing every aspect of your identity rather than hiding parts of yourself to conform to others' expectations. While Stan, Kyle, and Cartman form South Park's central trio, Kenny's role as the fourth friend is more complex and essential than it initially appears, serving as the group's emotional anchor and moral compass in ways that often go unrecognized by both his friends and casual viewers. His position as the fourth wheel might seem peripheral, but Kenny's presence fundamentally alters the group's dynamics, providing balance, perspective, and stability that becomes glaringly obvious during his absences. Kenny's relationship with Stan Marsh reveals layers of mutual understanding rooted in their shared experiences with family dysfunction, though expressed in different ways. While Stan deals with his parents' troubled marriage and his father's absurd schemes, Kenny navigates poverty and parental addiction. Both boys carry burdens that force them to mature faster than their peers, creating an unspoken bond of understanding. Kenny often serves as Stan's silent supporter during emotional crises, offering presence and solidarity even when his muffled voice prevents him from providing verbal comfort. The dynamic between Kenny and Kyle Broflovsky demonstrates how economic differences can both separate and unite friends. Kyle's middle-class Jewish family provides him with educational opportunities, cultural enrichment, and financial security that Kenny can only observe from the outside. Yet Kenny never expresses resentment toward Kyle's advantages, instead showing genuine interest in Kyle's academic achievements and family traditions. Kyle, for his part, seems most aware of Kenny's difficult circumstances and occasionally tries to help, though his efforts sometimes reveal the gulf between their lived experiences. Kenny's unique relationship with Eric Cartman presents one of the series' most fascinating character dynamics. Despite Cartman's frequent cruelty, manipulation, and outright evil behavior, Kenny maintains a friendship with him that puzzles viewers and other characters alike. This relationship reveals Kenny's extraordinary capacity for forgiveness and his ability to see potential for good even in deeply flawed people. Kenny's tolerance for Cartman's behavior might stem from his understanding of how poverty and family dysfunction can warp personality development, making him more patient with Cartman's issues than his other friends. Kenny's role as mediator in Stan and Kyle's friendship becomes apparent during their frequent arguments and temporary falling outs. When the two best friends fight, Kenny often serves as a bridge between them, maintaining relationships with both sides and sometimes facilitating their eventual reconciliation. His muffled speech might actually be an advantage in these situations, allowing him to listen without being pressured to take sides or offer judgments that might alienate either friend. Episodes where Kenny takes center stage reveal how much the group dynamic shifts when he becomes the focal point rather than background support. In these stories, his friends often discover aspects of Kenny's character they never noticed, suggesting that their usual overlooking of him reflects not malice, but the kind of casual insensitivity common in childhood friendships. When forced to pay attention to Kenny, his friends consistently show genuine care and concern for his well-being. Substitute teacher Ms. Chok Sondik, while typical of childhood infatuations, revealed his capacity for deep, sincere feelings that transcend mere physical attraction. His devotion to her memory after her death demonstrated genuine grief and the ability to form meaningful emotional attachments even in brief relationships. This early romantic experience established patterns that would characterize Kenny's later relationships. Intensity of feeling, loyalty, and the ability to see beauty and worth in people whom others might dismiss or mock. His relationship with Kelly, his on and off girlfriend throughout several seasons, showcases Kenny's ability to maintain romantic connections despite the challenges posed by his poverty and family situation. Kelly's acceptance of Kenny's circumstances and her genuine affection for him demonstrate that his romantic appeal stems from his character rather than material advantages he cannot provide. Their relationship dynamics show Kenny as attentive, caring, and emotionally available in ways that contrast sharply with typical portrayals of elementary school romance. The maturity Kenny displays in romantic situations often surpasses that of his friends and even many adults in the series. While his friends might approach relationships with selfish motivations or immature expectations, Kenny consistently demonstrates genuine care for his partner's well-being and happiness. He listens to their concerns, remembers important details about their lives, and shows willingness to sacrifice his own interests for their benefit. This emotional sophistication suggests natural empathy enhanced by his experiences with suffering and loss. How Kenny's poverty affects his dating life creates both challenges and opportunities for character development. His inability to afford traditional romantic gestures like expensive gifts or fancy dates forces him to be creative and personal in expressing affection. He relies on handmade gifts, shared experiences that cost nothing, and emotional intimacy rather than material displays of affection. These limitations often make his romantic expressions more meaningful and authentic than his friends' more conventional approaches. Kenny's respect for women, despite his crude environment, represents one of his most admirable character traits. Growing up surrounded by his father's inappropriate behavior, his friends' often misogynistic attitudes, and a broader culture that frequently objectifies women, Kenny could easily have developed similar patterns. Instead, he treats his romantic interests with dignity, respect, and genuine consideration for their autonomy and feelings. This respect extends beyond romantic relationships to encompass his interactions with female friends, family members, and acquaintances. Notable romantic episodes throughout the series reveal different aspects of Kenny's capacity for love and relationship building. His interactions with various crushes and girlfriends show consistent patterns of devotion, protectiveness, and emotional honesty that mark him as naturally suited for healthy relationships. Whether dealing with jealousy, misunderstandings, or the normal complications of young romance, Kenny typically responds with maturity and thoughtfulness that benefit all parties involved. The contrast between Kenny's crude humor with his male friends and his sincere affection in romantic contexts highlights his ability to code switch between different social situations appropriately. With his friends, He participates in typical masculine banter and crude jokes, but in romantic settings, he becomes gentle, attentive, and emotionally available. This adaptability demonstrates social intelligence and emotional regulation skills that serve him well in building meaningful relationships. Kenny's romantic character development reflects broader themes about how love can emerge and flourish even in difficult circumstances. His ability to form healthy romantic attachments despite his traumatic home life and repeated deaths suggests remarkable resilience and emotional health. Love becomes both an escape from his difficult circumstances and a source of strength that helps him cope with ongoing challenges. The evolution of Kenny's romantic storylines throughout the series shows increasing sophistication in how the writers approach his character development. Early romantic episodes might have focused on simple comedy or wish fulfillment, but later storylines explore more complex themes about communication, compatibility, and emotional growth. Kenny's relationships become vehicles for examining how young people learn to navigate intimacy, commitment, and the balance between individual identity and partnership. Kenny's approach to romantic conflict demonstrates his fundamental decency and emotional intelligence. When relationships face challenges, he typically responds with honest communication, willingness to compromise, and genuine concern for all parties' well-being. He rarely resorts to manipulation, game playing, or emotional cruelty even when hurt or disappointed. This mature approach to conflict resolution serves him well and often leads to better outcomes than his friends achieve in their romantic endeavors. His loyalty in romantic relationships mirrors his loyalty in friendships, suggesting consistent character traits that span different types of relationships. Kenny doesn't easily give up on people he cares about, whether friends who sometimes neglect him or romantic partners who might have flaws or face difficulties. This persistence comes from genuine affection rather than possessiveness, making it a strength rather than a problematic attachment style. Understanding Kenny's romantic life provides insight into his capacity for emotional growth, his natural empathy and kindness, and his ability to maintain hope and openness to love despite experiencing significant trauma and loss in other areas of his life. His romantic relationships serve as evidence that healthy love can develop and thrive even in challenging circumstances when supported by genuine character, emotional maturity, and sincere commitment to others' well-being. Matt Stone's portrayal of Kenny McCormick is one of voice acting's most unique challenges, requiring the creation of an entire language within muffled speech that maintains consistency, emotional range, and character development across hundreds of episodes spanning more than 2 decades. Stone's approach to voicing Kenny represents a masterclass in vocal creativity, technical innovation, and the kind of artistic commitment that transforms apparent limitations into distinctive strengths that define a character's entire identity. The technique behind Kenny's muffled speech involves Stone speaking clearly into his hand, a piece of cloth, or specially designed equipment that creates the characteristic garbled quality while maintaining enough vocal variation to convey different emotions, intentions, and even specific words for dedicated listeners to decode. This method requires precise control over volume, pitch, and rhythm to ensure that Kenny's dialogue remains consistent across different recording sessions while allowing for emotional nuance and character development. Stone's approach to conveying emotion through limited clarity demonstrates extraordinary vocal skill and creative problem-solving. Without the benefit of clear articulation, Stone must rely on tone, inflection, rhythm, and volume to communicate Kenny's feelings, thoughts, and personality. A slight change in pitch can indicate happiness, sadness, excitement, or fear. Variations in rhythm can suggest urgency, confusion, or contemplation. These subtle vocal adjustments create a surprisingly rich emotional palette, despite the apparent constraint of muffled speech. The evolution of Kenny's voice over 25-plus seasons reflects both Stone's growing skill as a voice actor and the character's development from simple running gag to complex protagonist. Early episodes featured more basic muffled speech with limited emotional range. But as the series progressed and Kenny's role expanded, Stone developed increasingly sophisticated vocal techniques that allowed for greater expressiveness and character depth. This evolution parallels the show's overall maturation and increasing narrative complexity. Behind-the-scenes insights into character development reveal how Stone's vocal choices shaped Kenny's personality and audience perception. The decision to make Kenny's speech muffled rather than simply quiet created a unique character dynamic where understanding becomes a form of intimacy between character and audience. Viewers who learn to decode Kenny's speech feel a special connection to the character, while those who can't understand him often overlook his contributions, mirroring real-world dynamics where communication barriers can lead to social isolation. The challenge of making Kenny distinctive among South Park's ensemble cast required Stone to develop vocal characteristics that would make Kenny memorable despite his limited clarity. Kenny's voice became identifiable not through specific words or catchphrases, but through its unique tonal qualities, rhythm patterns, and the way it interacted with other characters' voices. This distinctiveness ensured that Kenny remained recognizable and important even when his dialogue was incomprehensible. How Stone's voice acting choices shaped character perception demonstrates the power of vocal performance in animation. Kenny's muffled speech initially positioned him as background comedy, but Stone's increasingly nuanced vocal work allowed the character to evolve into something more complex and sympathetic. The voice acting supported character development by suggesting depth and intelligence beneath the garbled exterior, encouraging writers to explore Kenny's potential more fully. Stone's technical innovation in creating Kenny's voice influenced voice acting techniques beyond South Park, demonstrating how creative constraints can lead to breakthrough artistic solutions. Other voice actors and sound designers have studied Stone's methods for achieving clarity within muffled speech, emotional expression through limited articulation, and character consistency across extended periods. Kenny's voice became a case study in how apparent limitations can become defining strengths. The physical demands of voicing Kenny require specific techniques and stamina that differ from conventional voice acting. Speaking into fabric or hands for extended recording sessions creates unique challenges for breath control, vocal strain, and maintaining consistency. Stone developed specialized warm-up routines, recording techniques, and vocal care practices to maintain Kenny's distinctive sound without damaging his voice or compromising performance quality. Stone's ability to maintain Kenny's voice consistency while allowing for character growth represents one of voice acting's most impressive achievements. The character's voice had to remain recognizably Kenny while accommodating his evolution from child victim to teenage hero. Stone accomplished this by maintaining core vocal characteristics while gradually expanding the emotional range and complexity of Kenny's muffled speech patterns. The collaborative relationship between Stone's vocal performance and the show's writers demonstrates how voice acting can drive character development rather than simply serving pre-existing scripts. As Stone developed new vocal techniques and emotional expressions for Kenny, writers began crafting storylines that showcase these capabilities. This symbiotic relationship between performer and writers elevated Kenny from simple comic relief to complex character worthy of major story arcs. Kenny's rare moments of clear speech require Stone to shift vocal techniques dramatically while maintaining character consistency. When Kenny removes his hood or speaks as Mysterian, Stone must transition from muffled delivery to clear articulation while preserving the essential qualities that make the voice recognizably Kenny's. These transitions require careful attention to pitch, rhythm, and emotional tone to ensure seamless character continuity. The cultural impact of Stone's vocal performance extends beyond South Park to influence popular culture's understanding of how voice acting can create memorable characters through creative constraints rather than conventional techniques. Kenny's voice became instantly recognizable across different media, inspiring parodies, tributes, and academic analysis of how vocal limitation can enhance rather than diminish character appeal. Understanding Matt Stone's vocal performance as Kenny McCormick provides crucial insight into how technical innovation artistic commitment, and creative problem-solving can transform apparent disadvantages into defining character strengths that resonate with audiences across decades of storytelling. Kenny McCormick transcended his origins as a simple running gag to become a cultural icon, inspiring everything from internet memes to academic discussions about mortality, poverty, and heroism in modern media. His impact extends far beyond South Park's immediate audience to influence broader conversations about representation, character development, and how animated television can address serious social issues through seemingly simple comedy. Kenny's cultural significance demonstrates how thoughtful character development can transform even the most unlikely figures into lasting symbols that resonate across different demographics and cultural contexts. The "oh my god, they killed Kenny" phenomenon became one of television's most recognizable catchphrases, transcending its original context to become a cultural shorthand for unexpected loss, recurring problems, or situations where someone faces repeated setbacks. The phrase appeared in everything from political commentary to sports journalism, academic papers to casual conversation, demonstrating how Kenny's predicament resonated with universal human experiences of facing seemingly insurmountable challenges or cyclical difficulties. Kenny merchandise and fan art reveal the depth of audience connection to the character, with creators producing everything from traditional collectibles to sophisticated artistic interpretations that explore themes of mortality, heroism, and resilience. Fan artists frequently depict Kenny in contexts that emphasize his heroic qualities, his relationship with his sister Karen, or his various alter egos, suggesting that audiences recognize and appreciate the character's complexity beyond his comedic deaths. This fan engagement demonstrates active audience investment in Kenny's development and significance. International recognition and cultural variations of Kenny's impact show how the character's themes translate across different societies and cultural contexts. Japanese audiences embraced Princess Kenny with particular enthusiasm, creating extensive fan communities and artistic tributes that highlighted different aspects of the character's appeal. European audiences often focus on Kenny's representation of economic inequality and social justice themes, while audiences in developing nations connect with his portrayal of poverty and family dysfunction as realistic rather than comedic. Academic analysis of Kenny's character has produced scholarly articles examining everything from his representation of working-class identity to his function as a Christ figure who dies and resurrects for others' benefit. Literary critics have analyzed his character arc through frameworks of heroic mythology, trauma psychology, and social commentary, treating him as seriously as characters from traditional literature. This academic attention validates the depth and sophistication of Kenny's character development. Kenny's influence on other animated characters can be seen in subsequent shows that feature seemingly minor characters who evolve into complex protagonists, muffled or unclear speech patterns that create intimacy between character and audience, and storylines that use apparent comedy to explore serious themes about mortality, poverty, and social inequality. His character became a template for how animation could develop depth through constraint and how running gags could evolve into meaningful character development. The character's legacy in animation history represents a significant shift in how creators and audiences understand the potential for character development in comedy series. Kenny proved that no character is too minor, too constrained, or too apparently simple to become complex and meaningful given thoughtful development over time. His evolution encouraged other creators to look more deeply at their own background characters and consider untapped potential for growth and significance. Kenny's role in discussions about representation encompasses multiple intersecting identities and experiences: working-class childhood, family dysfunction, heroism emerging from trauma, and non-traditional expressions of masculinity through characters like Princess Kenny. His character provides representation for audiences who rarely see their experiences reflected in mainstream media, particularly children dealing with poverty, family addiction, or social isolation. The meme culture surrounding Kenny demonstrates how contemporary audiences engage with media characters as cultural symbols rather than simply entertainment figures. Kenny memes often reference broader themes about resilience, repeated failures, social inequality, or the absurdity of existence, using his image and catchphrases to comment on everything from political events to personal struggles. This mimetic adoption shows how deeply Kenny has penetrated cultural consciousness. Kenny's impact on charitable causes and social awareness campaigns reflects his association with themes of poverty, child welfare, and social justice. Organizations working on issues like family addiction, childhood poverty, or domestic violence have referenced Kenny's character in awareness campaigns, using his recognizable image and story to highlight real-world problems. This application of his character to serious social issues demonstrates the depth of his cultural penetration and symbolic significance. The character's influence on discussions about mental health, particularly regarding trauma, resilience, and childhood coping mechanisms, has made Kenny a figure referenced in psychological and social work contexts. His ability to maintain heroism and empathy despite repeated trauma provides a model for understanding how children can develop strength through adversity, though experts also note the importance of support systems that Kenny often lacks. Kenny's lasting appeal across generations suggests that his themes and character qualities address fundamental human experiences that transcend specific cultural moments or demographic groups. Parents who watched Kenny as children now share the character with their own kids, often finding new layers of meaning in his stories when viewed from adult perspectives that appreciate the sophisticated handling of poverty, family dysfunction, and moral development. The evolution of Kenny's cultural status from throwaway gag to beloved icon reflects broader changes in how audiences consume and analyze media, expecting greater depth and meaning from entertainment while appreciating creativity and innovation in character development. Kenny's success encouraged creators to trust audiences' capacity for recognizing and appreciating complexity even in seemingly simple characters. Understanding Kenny's cultural impact requires recognizing how effective character development can create lasting symbols that speak to universal human experiences while addressing specific social issues, demonstrating animation's capacity for meaningful cultural contribution beyond mere entertainment. Over South Park's long run, Kenny has evolved from a one-note character into one of the show's most complex and sympathetic figures, representing themes of resilience, family, and heroism that have grown increasingly sophisticated as both the character and the series itself have matured. This transformation represents one of television animation's most successful examples of character rehabilitation, proving that even the most apparently limited characters can develop profound depth when approached with creativity, patience, and genuine respect for their potential. Kenny's character arc throughout the series follows a clear trajectory from expendable comic relief to irreplaceable emotional center. Early seasons treated his deaths as shocking comedy with no lasting consequences, but gradual revelations about his immortality curse, family background, and personal struggles transformed these same deaths into tragic events that carry real emotional weight. This evolution required careful retroactive continuity that recontextualized previous episodes while establishing new narrative foundations for future development. Major turning points in Kenny's development can be identified throughout the series' run, each building on previous revelations while opening new avenues for character exploration. The introduction of his family dynamics provided context for his maturity and empathy. The revelation of his immortality curse transformed his deaths from gags into genuine trauma. His emergence as Mysterian gave him agency and heroic purpose. Each turning point felt organic rather than forced, suggesting careful long-term planning rather than arbitrary character changes. How Kenny's role expanded beyond comic relief demonstrates the writer's growing appreciation for the character's untapped potential. As the series tackled more complex social and emotional themes, Kenny's unique perspective as a working-class child dealing with family dysfunction became increasingly valuable for storytelling purposes. His experiences provided the show with authentic insights into poverty, trauma, and resilience that couldn't be achieved through his more privileged friends' perspectives. The shift from victim to hero represents perhaps the most significant aspect of Kenny's character development. Early Kenny was purely reactive, suffering things that happened to him without agency or control. Modern Kenny actively chooses heroism, uses his unique circumstances to help others, and takes charge of his own narrative despite the cosmic forces that constrain him. This transformation from passive victim to active hero provides a powerful model of personal empowerment through adversity. Character growth through major storylines shows how individual episodes and multi-part arcs contributed to Kenny's overall development. The Mysterian trilogy didn't just reveal his secret identity. It established his moral code, his relationship with responsibility, and his understanding of sacrifice. The episodes dealing with his family's cult connections provided supernatural context while maintaining focus on very human themes of family loyalty, childhood trauma, and the search for meaning in suffering. How Kenny reflects broader show themes becomes apparent when examining South Park's evolution from pure shock comedy to sophisticated social commentary. Kenny's development parallels the show's growing willingness to address serious issues through sustained character development rather than one-off joke episodes. His story arcs explore themes that run throughout the series: the impact of economic inequality, the complexity of family relationships, the nature of heroism, and the possibility of finding meaning in apparently meaningless suffering. The maturation of both character and comedy demonstrates how South Park learned to balance its irreverent humor with genuine emotional depth. Kenny's deaths can still be funny, but they're also tragic. His poverty can still generate comedy, but it's also heartbreaking. His muffled speech can still be a running gag, but it's also a barrier to communication that reflects real social isolation. This layered approach to comedy and character development represents sophisticated storytelling that respects both humor and humanity. Kenny's role in the series' social commentary has become increasingly prominent as writers recognize his value as a representative of working-class experiences often ignored in mainstream media. Through Kenny's eyes, the show can explore issues like healthcare inequality, educational disadvantage, food insecurity, and social mobility in ways that feel authentic rather than academic. His perspective grounds the show's more abstract social criticism in lived experience. The consistency of Kenny's core character traits throughout his development demonstrates skillful character writing that allows for growth without losing essential identity. Despite becoming more complex and prominent, Kenny remains fundamentally the same person: loyal, brave, empathetic, and resilient. His development has revealed these qualities more clearly rather than replacing them with entirely new characteristics, creating character growth that feels natural and earned. Kenny's relationship dynamics have evolved alongside his individual character development, particularly his interactions with his friends, family, and romantic interests. As he's become more complex, his relationships have gained depth and nuance that allow for more sophisticated storytelling and emotional exploration. His friendship with Stan, Kyle, and Cartman now carries decades of shared history and mutual understanding that informs every interaction. The balance between Kenny's various personas, Everyday Kenny, Mysterian, Princess Kenny, reflects sophisticated character writing that allows different aspects of his personality to emerge in different contexts without creating inconsistency or confusion. Each persona serves specific narrative functions while contributing to a coherent overall character that feels like a complete, multifaceted person rather than a collection of disconnected character traits. Kenny's development has influenced the show's approach to other characters, encouraging writers to look for untapped potential in background figures and to consider how apparent limitations might become defining strengths. His success as a developed character has validated South Park's commitment to long-term character development over pure episodic comedy, contributing to the series' overall evolution toward more serialized storytelling. Understanding Kenny's growth and evolution provides insight into how sustained character development can transform any figure into compelling protagonist, how constraints can become creative opportunities, and how animated comedy can address serious themes without losing its essential humor and irreverence. As South Park continues to evolve, Kenny McCormick remains its emotional core, a character who reminds us that even in the most cynical comedy, genuine heart and heroism can emerge from the most unlikely places, proving that depth and meaning can coexist with irreverent humor and satirical commentary. His enduring presence in the series serves as a constant reminder of the show's capacity for genuine emotion and moral complexity beneath its provocative exterior, making him essential to South Park's identity as something more than simple shock comedy. Kenny's current role in the series reflects his evolution from background character to central emotional anchor. While Stan and Kyle often serve as the show's conscience and Cartman provides its chaos, Kenny represents its heart. The character whose experiences and responses ground even the most outrageous storylines in recognizable human emotion. His reactions to events, his relationships with other characters, and his quiet heroism provide emotional weight that prevents the show from becoming purely cynical or mean-spirited. How Kenny represents South Park's emotional center becomes apparent in episodes dealing with serious themes like death, poverty, family dysfunction, or social inequality. His presence transforms abstract issues into personal stories with real stakes and genuine consequences. When the show tackles healthcare, Kenny's lack of access makes it personal. When it addresses family problems, Kenny's dysfunction makes it real. His character provides the human element that prevents social commentary from becoming merely academic. The character's future potential remains vast despite his extensive development over more than 2 decades. Kenny's immortality, his growing awareness of cosmic forces, his heroic identity as Mysterian, and his complex family relationships provide numerous avenues for future storytelling. As he ages within the show's timeline, new challenges and opportunities for growth will emerge, particularly around themes of identity, responsibility, and the balance between personal happiness and heroic duty. What Kenny means to longtime fans encompasses multiple layers of appreciation and emotional investment that have accumulated over years of character development. For many viewers, Kenny represents their own growth alongside the series. What began as simple comedy evolved into sophisticated character study that mirrors their own increasing appreciation for complexity and nuance in storytelling. His development validates the time and emotional investment fans have placed in the series. Kenny's role in South Park's social commentary has become increasingly sophisticated as writers recognize his value as a lens through which to examine class issues, family dysfunction, and social inequality. His perspective provides authenticity to the show's criticism of systems that fail vulnerable populations, while his resilience and heroism offer hope that individuals can overcome systemic disadvantages through personal strength and community support. The balance between comedy and character depth that Kenny represents has become central to South Park's identity as a series capable of addressing serious issues without losing its irreverent humor. Kenny's story demonstrates that comedy and pathos can coexist, that characters can be both funny and tragic, and that animated series can tackle difficult subjects while maintaining their essential entertainment value. This balance has influenced how other animated shows approach serious themes. Kenny's function as South Park's unlikely moral compass becomes clear when examining how his actions and choices often represent the most ethical responses to difficult situations. While other characters might be driven by self-interest, social pressure, or ideological commitment, Kenny consistently chooses based on genuine compassion and concern for others' well-being. His moral clarity provides a standard against which other characters' choices can be measured. The character's representation of hope within South Park's often dark worldview serves as a crucial counterbalance to the show's satirical cynicism. Kenny proves that goodness can emerge from suffering, that heroism can develop in the most unlikely circumstances, and that individuals can maintain moral integrity despite systemic corruption and social dysfunction. His existence within the show's universe suggests that positive change is possible even in apparently hopeless situations. Kenny's relationship with the show's broader themes about American society, family dynamics, and human nature provides ongoing relevance that ensures his continued importance to the series. As social issues evolve and new challenges emerge, Kenny's perspective as a working-class child dealing with family dysfunction and social inequality remains valuable for exploring contemporary problems through established character relationships and dynamics. The universality of Kenny's experiences, dealing with difficult family situations, economic hardship, social isolation, and the search for meaning and purpose, ensures his continued relevance to audiences regardless of their specific backgrounds. His story speaks to fundamental human experiences of struggle, resilience, and the desire to help others, making him relatable across different demographics and cultural contexts. Kenny's legacy within South Park encompasses his role in the show's evolution from simple shock comedy to sophisticated social commentary. His demonstration that animated characters can achieve genuine depth and complexity, and is proof that heroism can emerge from the most unlikely circumstances. His character development has elevated the entire series and influenced how audiences and creators understand the potential for growth and meaning in animated television. The enduring appeal of Kenny's character suggests that his themes and qualities address timeless human concerns that transcend specific cultural moments or social trends. His combination of vulnerability and strength, tragedy and comedy, simplicity and complexity creates a character who can continue to evolve and remain relevant as both the series and its audience mature and change over time. Understanding Kenny's legacy requires recognizing his unique contribution to animated television, his role in South Park's thematic development, and his demonstration that even the most apparently limited characters can become profound symbols of human resilience, moral courage, and the possibility of finding meaning and purpose in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. Kenny McCormick's journey from background character to beloved icon proves that even the most unlikely characters can touch our hearts and remind us of our own humanity, demonstrating that true depth in storytelling comes not from grand gestures or obvious drama, but from the careful, patient development of authentic human experiences that resonate across different audiences and cultural contexts. As we conclude this exploration of Kenny's character, it becomes clear that his significance extends far beyond his role in South Park to encompass broader lessons about resilience, heroism, and the power of finding meaning in difficult circumstances. The transformation of Kenny from simple running gag to complex protagonist represents one of animation's most successful examples of character rehabilitation, proving that no character is too minor, too constrained, or too apparently simple to develop into something meaningful and profound. His evolution required creativity, patience, and genuine respect for the character's potential, qualities that serve as models for how other creators might approach their own seemingly disposable or limited characters. Kenny's development validates the idea that every character contains untapped potential waiting for the right creative approach. Kenny's significance to South Park encompasses multiple dimensions that have accumulated over more than 2 decades of storytelling. He serves as the series' emotional anchor, providing genuine heart and moral clarity within often cynical comedy. His perspective as a working-class child dealing with family dysfunction offers authentic insights into social issues that ground the show's satirical commentary in lived experience. His heroic actions as Mysterian demonstrate that courage and nobility can emerge from the most challenging circumstances. The lasting appeal of Kenny's story stems from its exploration of universal human themes through a unique and memorable character whose specific circumstances speak to broader experiences of struggle, resilience, and moral development. His ability to maintain empathy and heroism despite repeated trauma provides a powerful model of psychological strength and emotional health. His loyalty to friends who sometimes overlook him demonstrates the value of unconditional love and commitment in relationships. What makes Kenny special among animated characters is his combination of vulnerability and strength, comedy and tragedy, simplicity and complexity that creates a fully realized person rather than a collection of character traits designed for specific narrative functions. His muffled speech, hidden face, and frequent deaths could have remained simple gimmicks, but thoughtful development transformed these limitations into defining characteristics that enhance rather than constrain his storytelling potential. Kenny's representation of hope within South Park's often dark worldview serves as a crucial reminder that positive change is possible even in apparently hopeless circumstances. His emergence from poverty, family dysfunction, and cosmic horror to become a genuine hero demonstrates that individuals can overcome systemic disadvantages through personal strength, moral clarity, and commitment to helping others. His story validates the experiences of real people facing similar challenges while providing inspiration for perseverance and growth. The character's impact on discussions about representation, social inequality, and moral development extends beyond entertainment to encompass educational and social value that makes his story relevant to broader cultural conversations. Kenny provides representation for working-class experiences often ignored in mainstream media, while demonstrating how animated television can address serious social issues through sustained character development rather than simple messaging or preachy storylines. Kenny's influence on other animated characters and storytelling approaches demonstrates how successful character development can inspire creators to look more deeply at their own work and consider untapped potential in seemingly minor figures. His evolution encouraged other shows to experiment with constraint-based character development, muffled or unclear communication as intimacy-building techniques, and the use of apparent comedy to explore serious themes about mortality, poverty, and heroism. The technical innovations required to bring Kenny to life. Matt Stone's unique vocal techniques, the animation challenges of conveying emotion through limited facial expression, the writing strategies needed to develop character through action rather than dialogue, have influenced voice acting, animation, and screenwriting approaches beyond South Park itself. Kenny became a case study in how creative constraints can lead to breakthrough artistic solutions. Understanding Kenny's character development provides valuable insights into how sustained, patient storytelling can transform any figure into a compelling protagonist worthy of audience investment and emotional attachment. His evolution demonstrates that effective character development often involves recontextualizing existing traits rather than abandoning them, finding strength within apparent weakness, and building on established foundations rather than starting from scratch. The lessons Kenny's story offers about resilience, moral development, and finding meaning in suffering speak to fundamental human experiences that transcend specific cultural contexts or demographic boundaries. His ability to maintain hope and heroism despite cosmic horror, family dysfunction, and social isolation provides a model for how individuals can respond to adversity with strength and grace rather than bitterness or despair. Kenny's enduring relevance suggests that his themes and character qualities address timeless concerns about justice, family, friendship, and a search for purpose that will continue to resonate with audiences regardless of changing social trends or cultural shifts. His combination of specific circumstances and universal experiences creates a character who can continue to evolve and remain meaningful as both the series and its audience mature over time. As we reach the end of this exploration, it's worth reflecting on how Kenny McCormick's journey reminds us to look more carefully at the people around us who might be overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed due to apparent limitations or challenging circumstances. His story suggests that everyone contains potential for growth, heroism, and positive impact when given the opportunity and support to develop their strengths and overcome their challenges. Kenny McCormick's legacy ultimately lies in his demonstration that animated characters can achieve genuine depth and meaning, that comedy and tragedy can coexist to create powerful storytelling, and that the most profound heroes often emerge from the most unlikely circumstances. His journey from orange-hooded running gag to beloved icon serves as inspiration for creators, audiences, and anyone who has ever felt overlooked or underestimated, proving that with patience, creativity, and genuine care, any character or person can become something extraordinary.